Hello, everybody. Welcome into BBN Live presented by eCoach. We are coming to you via the UK Athletics platform. You can tell your friends about these shows. They show up on Twitter, on the UK Facebook pages. It's an opportunity to interact with coaches and other athletic department personnel. I'm Tom Leach from the UK Sports Network, and today we're going to chat with a couple of gentlemen, one from Kentucky football, Vince Marrow, and one from Kentucky basketball, Joel Justus. Good day, gentlemen. How you guys hanging in?
Good morning,
Vince, we'll
Tom.
start with you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, Tom, I'm hanging in there. We just had my first meeting with my players yesterday. It's very unique, but these are times we're living in, but getting a lot of recruiting done now. Got a lot of time on your hand, to just reach out to a lot of prospects now. So that's one good thing.
Thank goodness for smartphones and iPads and all the other technology now that we have.
Yes.
Joel, what about for you in basketball?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. I mean, it turns to, recruiting, which is really the lifeblood of both, our problems. I'm sure, Coach Marrow would say the same thing. I mean, it's recruiting 365 days a year. And now really that's all you can do. And minus maybe going for a walk or doing some sort of personal workout. You're checking on your guys, you're checking on our current players or former players. And, really it's just continuing to build those relationships and patch up some relationships that maybe during the season that you've, kind of lost touch with or taken a back seat, to your current team. So it's a lot of fun conversations and catching up with folks and players and coaches and folks all around. So while it is somewhat of a bad deal, it kind of, you got to make the best of it.
Absolutely. Let's get to a few questions for you guys. And we are this particular edition of BBN Live each day is geared more toward welcoming in some kids to watch us of various ages. So some of the questions will be geared toward that audience. So we'll start with you, Vince, and I want to talk a little bit about the path that got you to Kentucky, but take us back to your elementary school days and how you got into sports and maybe what point you thought you might go down this path.
Wow, that's a good question, Tom. That's a long time ago, but Miss Kakaracas was I remember her vaguely. I remember her a lot. She was my first grade teacher, and she probably was I was pretty tall for a first grader, and she always started talking to me about academics early and said that you got to have good grades to go to college. And at the time, I didn't even know if I wanted to play sports. I just wanted to play kickball and play with crayons and play jokes and with my other first grade colleagues. But as I started finding myself athletically and growing even more taller, she was the one who really guided me through. Even when I left first grade, she just stayed in touch with me and followed my progress of starting to become a student athlete. And I remember I think when I got drafted by the Bills, I didn't have contact with her for a long time, and she sent me a nice letter saying that she knew that this day would come, and she seen that I was probably going to do great things. And I never forget that. I got a lot of congratulations from a lot of people when you get drafted, but she stood out more because she really played a big part in my life. From first grade to eighth grade, she really was one of them teachers that didn't look at your social status. She just really cared, and we need more teachers like that because she really made me feel more comfortable in my skin as a kid that was pretty tall for a first grader. And then as I went on through, first grade to sixth grade, she was that guiding light that kept me positive and actually made me believe in myself. So shout out to Miss Kakaracas, one of the most important figures in my life. It actually got me pretty much going through high school. Through elementary school. You have people sometimes that bully, and like I said, you would think I was a big guy, but I didn't really find myself. And she really made me find myself, and I thank God for her. So I would have to say that was my experience as a young Vince Marrow.
The same topics with you, Joel. Starting to kind of the path that led you to coaching and maybe to Kentucky, but start with elementary school and anybody in those formative years that had an impact on you and setting you on a particular course.
Right. It's interesting. I always tell people I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which is a very similar city, place to Lexington. There's Wake Forest, and my father worked at Wake growing up. And so I had the benefit of spending a lot of time on campus. Went to basketball practice, went to football practice, went to football games. I was the luckiest kid. I tell people all the time, when I was a child, I grew up during the football season, and Coach Marrow would probably remember these days, the days of holding cords on the sideline. I was one of the guys that would hold the cords for the offensive coordinator at Wake Forest during the football game. So I stood on the sidelines, and, when he would talk to the players, I would put the headsets on, and I learned a lot. My vocabulary, might not have been the best, for a young kid, but I was around sports. And then during the basketball season, I would take the bus from my elementary school, middle school to Wake Forest and go watch basketball practice every day. For Dave Odom was the basketball coach at Wake when I was growing up, and saw the likes of Randolph Childress, Rodney Rogers, and then Tim Duncan. I'd watch those guys practice every day, and was around college sports, was around a college campus, and knew that I wanted to work hard to hopefully be a college student athlete one day. And ultimately, when I was finished playing, was not afforded the opportunity maybe to go be a professional athlete. So the closest thing for me was to jump right into coaching, and I was lucky, very lucky to do that. And really look back on so many people, my parents, but also my grandfather was a high school basketball coach. I was looked up to so many of my teachers that were coaches, that were mentors to me. And really am thankful for so many folks that were in my life.
Let's go back to Coach Marrow now for this next question, because as we said, we're hoping that a lot of kids are tuning in, and they could be various ages and aspiring to play maybe for the Wildcats someday, or maybe their parents have that dream for them. Vince, beyond just raw athletic ability, what are some of the other traits that you look for when you're considering recruits and evaluating recruits?
Well, character first and foremost. You got to have great character, academics. There's some kids now that they even walk on for us that were maybe not as good, and I shouldn't say as talented as some of the guys that are on scholarship, but they were pretty good football players, in high school. But the key factor was when we looked at them as coming to be a part of our team, the academics was very strong. And when you talk to people in the community or people in the school, they have very high character. Sometimes you need to balance a big organization as Coach Stoops run for us as 100. It's more than 85. We probably have about 110 players on our team when you bring in walk-ons. So you got to have a balance of character and good academics and just good people. So I would say if any young kid is listening, female or male, I would think most coaches would love to have, first and foremost, you got to have character on your team, and academics is something very highly that would play a big part in being a part of whatever, whether it's women's basketball or football or softball. I would think, most coaches they look for them traits.
Let's go to Coach Justus. Joel, same thing for you. beyond just raw talent, what are some other things that you evaluate?
Well, I think, just as Coach just said, I mean, the character is number one. That is so paramount, and what must be on everybody on the team. You must have that. I think your passion. I think that is second. For us, is, do you love basketball? Do you love football? Do you love softball? Do you love golf? Whatever it is, you have to have something inside of you that burns for you to become your best version. That's important for Coach Cal, is to bring people here that want to be coached, that want to get better, that are going to listen. And then really, I think, along with that is do you have a curious mind? And I think if there's any, young people out there, are you reading? Are you listening to your teachers, your coaches? Do you want to learn more? Do you want to become better versus, oh, I already know that. I don't need to learn more. I don't need to listen. We challenge our guys to read, to listen to podcasts, to talk to professional players or other coaches, people that know more than you. And I think even as coaches, this time has been great for me and for our other coaches, to read, to listen to podcasts, to try and learn more about, our profession. And I would say for any young people out there, if you want to be great at anything, you have to have a curious mind.
Let me ask you
Yeah.
this, Joel. What about a favorite sport that you've had growing up? It sounds like it was basketball, but maybe if there was anything else, and then favorite player or team that you followed.
I think that it was different when I grew up, and now I'm 30-ish. I grew up playing a lot of sports. It's a little bit different now. I know for young people, they're maybe specializing a little bit earlier than I did. I played basketball. I played baseball. My parents got me into a little bit of golf, a little bit of tennis. And back in the day, we had recess. Coach Marrow talked about history was his favorite. I think my favorite was probably recess. I was probably the best at recess, maybe more than history. But we played a lot of different sports. I know, Coach, probably you did too growing up. And I would say for any young people, continue to try new things, try new sports. We love guys that are well-rounded, that maybe have played high school football, that maybe played soccer, baseball. And that's how I grew up. I think, like I said, my dad worked at Wake Forest growing up. So I was a Wake Forest fan, really growing up. I grew, was a big time Demon Deacon. And I think anyone that's maybe listened to me around Big Blue Nation, I always tell people, every time Wake Forest was good when I was growing up, Big Blue would always roll in and knock Wake Forest and our team out of the NCAA tournament. So outside of Duke and Carolina, who I obviously did not like, nor Kentucky was right there, because every time my team growing up was good, Kentucky would come right in and knock us out. So I still am a Demon Deacon a little bit. My little boy is even named Deacon. So I would say that I'm a Wake Forest guy.
Whoever negotiated for us as kids and gave up naps and recess really did us a great disservice. I wish they had held firm on those two things for the rest of our lives.
I had
Vince, what about you? Vince, what about
Yeah.
you? Favorite sports and favorite athletes or teams growing up?
Well, Bob Stoops said it best. We were sitting around one time, probably about 3 years ago, talking in Youngstown, and he was saying kids just don't get out and play no more. These video games. So when we were growing up, we would play, basketball, football, kickball, climb trees. It just made you do more athletic stuff. My favorite sport was basketball. You see, I bring recruits even now around Joel and them and Coach Cal and them, but I'm really a basketball fan. I really do appreciate the hospitality when we come over there and we bring recruits over there. We get a good response from the basketball staff over there. They really show us a good time. but I'm over there as a fan because I love basketball. I played basketball in high school, middle school, AAU basketball. I really, to believe it or not, I played football just because I was big and fast, but my love was basketball. I actually went to college for basketball my first 3 years, and it was Nick Saban who made me switch over and say, you 6'4", you 240, you run in the 4 or 5 range. He said I don't know if you remember Joe, Adrian Dantley. He told me ain't no more Adrian Dantley. It's like the 6'4" forwards. So now when I'm recruiting like basketball guys, Ahmad Wagner, I try to tell him, I said, dude, you think you a D1 basketball player, you're pretty good, but I can bring you up to Kentucky and their guards are 6'6" and 6'5". So I use that analogy all the time. My favorite player, believe it or not, was Larry Bird. I just liked the way he played. It was a blue collar. And I hate to say it, being an inner city guy, I would have a Boston Celtics jersey on at the playgrounds. And the guys, they looked at it because back then it was the Lakers and the Celtics. And most of the guys like the Lakers, where I was coming from, or the Sixers. But I was a Larry Bird fan because just reading his documentary and just who he was really resonated more with me. And my favorite team was the Celtics.
Great stories, guys. Appreciate those. And we're going to keep these guys around for an evening session of BBN Live presented by ECoach. Thank you for tuning in for this one here from UKathletics.com.